Welcome to Larry's Library. Today I finished reading Two Dead, an original graphic novel written by Van Jensen with art by Nate Powell. I'm going to get right into it. So this is a trade paperback, but it is slightly oversized. As you can see in the B-roll here, it's a little bit larger than a standard trade. Just a little. And this is by Simon & Schuster's Gallery 13 imprint. It's 256 pages. The cover price on it is $19.99. This came out in 2019. I don't know if it's out of print. I'm guessing it is, but it still shows available at booksamillion.com and likely some other places. I did not see it on in-stock trades. Cheap Graphic Novel shows a listing for it, but it says out of print or not available. So good luck finding it. You can definitely get it at Books A Million, though, as of the time of this shooting. As I mentioned, it is written by Van Jensen with art by Nate Powell. It is black and white art. It's beautiful black and white art, but it is black and white. So this is an original graphic novel, so this doesn't collect anything. But it tells a story that feels real. It feels like it's based on real events, but it's not. I think it is loosely based on things that happened, but not directly adapted from a real-life event. This is a crime noir tale set in Little Rock, Arkansas, just after World War II. I believe that's the setting. And it just deals with a lot of rough subjects. PTSD, and this was before, PTSD was, I think, before it was ever even coined. I don't think they had the term back then. And so you got some characters that are suffering from this, totally undiagnosed and certainly untreated. It also deals with racism, on a personal racism as well as systemic racism, and it's treated very straightforward and just lays it right out there. Some of this is really rough material to read, but it's important stuff to deal with for sure. Now more than ever, really. And this deals with mobsters and police corruption and just a powder keg of a situation in Little Rock, Arkansas, way back, just like I said, just after World War II. And so you have all these factions, and the story is told from several different viewpoints. You got two African-American brothers. One is part of the sort of all-black police force that sort of takes care of one side of town, and the other is sort of a low-level mobster. He's always been a criminal of a sort, and he's fell in with the mobsters, which in this depiction, the mobsters aren't really, they don't seem to be racist. They seem to be just equal opportunity bad guys. But, of course, the mob has their hooks in the police, the politicians, everywhere, much like they probably do now. But they certainly had a stranglehold on it at that point in time. And the story deals with one of the main characters is Bailey, who is a detective, an older detective that's been on for a long time, too long, and he is suffering from PTSD of his own. And then you have a newer detective coming in who is secretly working for the mayor, trying to expose Bailey's corruption. So that's a whole thing. But you learn to feel for all these characters, really. And because the story is, like I said, is told through multiple viewpoints of all of them. And it's rough stuff. It really is at times. But it is a beautifully told tale. I did have a little bit of problem with the black and white art. I do prefer color, so that's my bias as far as, art. But at times, especially I'd say the first half of the story, the first quarter certainly, it's a little hard for me to tell exactly what's going on and to try to differentiate between the characters. And this is where, in a comic book, color really helps, I think. It often, I've had that issue with other comic books in the past, maybe a me thing, but I know it's not just a me thing. I mean, I have seen the subject discussed and read a lot about the history of comic books, and that is one of the main reasons that comics, went out and eventually became in color, at least in America, was because it was much easier to tell apart the characters when you had a little bit of color. You could differentiate their clothing and whatnot. So you don't have that here because it is black and white. But it works, and I don't know if the storytelling got better, or maybe I just got better at understanding Nate Powell's way of storytelling. But I'd say about the midpoint in the book, I could follow what was happening easily, and I was able to differentiate the characters, and I loved it more and more as it went on. And it has a hell of an ending, for sure. I'm surprised this has not been optioned for a film. I think it certainly should be. It could actually be a series, easily. I could see this being adapted to Netflix or something. But yeah, it's certainly worth reading, and if you can get a hold of it, I say buy it. For me, this is 8 out of 10. It's a solid read. Like I said, beautiful artwork by Nate Powell. Nate Powell reminds me of Will Eisner a little bit. I would say Will Eisner art, but with a little bit of Gene Colan flourish, the way he does with his brush strokes and stuff. Sort of reminds me of Gene Colan. And for me, there's no higher praise than comparing someone to Gene Colan, because I think Gene Colan was the master. I'm not sure anyone drew comic books as good as Gene Colan, and he is sorely missed. But Nate Powell reminds me of Colan here and there. Like I said, a little more cartoony than Gene Colan ever was, but still very nice, really detailed stuff. Excellent. I forgot to mention this was a gift from my daughter Kristen, so check her channel out, The Comic Slayer. She has some great taste, and yeah, well worth your time there. If you haven't subscribed to that channel, do that. Link to her channel is in the doobly-doo. But yeah, this was a good one, and some gut-wrenching stuff, and very emotional at times, and it's a powerful story. I can't say too much about it because it'll give away plot lines. There's some really cool plots going on here, and yeah, so check it out if you can. There may be a way to read it digitally. Didn't look into that. Sorry. I'm a little sick right now, but I managed to get through a review. So yeah, this was short and sweet. I don't want to give too much away on it, but it is 8 out of 10 for me. Get it if you can. It's great. And I'll let you go for now, and I'll see you next week, if not sooner.